This is
Up
for Grabs, a podcast where three unfiltered friends talk about anything and everything. And now, here are your hosts, Tracy, Kim, and Rachel.
Welcome to Up for Grabs. I'm Rachel. I'm here with my friends Kim.
Hello.
And Tracy.
Hi.
Hi. We're putting on our detective hats today. Well, maybe not. Maybe our jury hats are...
Just reporting.
Oh, I wanted to wear a hat.
You should because your hair looks like you need one today.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Because we're coming back in, giving an update on the Delphi murder trial that did wrap up with a verdict here. Was it earlier this month?
Yeah,
I feel like it was semi-recently.
It seems
recently.
Yeah.
Okay, so since there was a verdict, I thought, well, we might as well talk about it. Although, just because there's a verdict doesn't mean that it will continue to sentencing and go on. It might just be another trial. I mean, isn't that how it goes? Can't they say, nuh-uh?
Well, no, they're going to sentence him in this trial. Now, if he, what do you call it when you...
when he appeals.
Appeal, that's the word I'm
when you
looking
get
for.
mad and say no,
Yeah,
it wasn't
I
me.
say, no, I'm not
They'll
doing that.
even take a second look at it. His
Yeah.
appeals may probably won't.
Are you
And
allowed to
those
get away
take
with much?
years
I mean,
appeals.
you can keep appealing. You can appeal the heck out of something.
But it doesn't have to be heard. Like,
No.
you can say no.
They can say you haven't brought enough new evidence to the table, or there's nothing compelling, I believe is the term they used to.
There's nothing compelling about most of the things I
compelling to
do.
get
So
us
that,
to do
yeah.
it. Correct.
Yeah, it
Yes.
takes a lot to.
Okay.
A lot.
Okay, so there's been the verdict. So Tracy, I want you just to kind of jump in to the Delphi trials. I am assuming that most listeners
Let's
across
give
the country.
a very quick recap.
Okay.
In 2017,
Yes. I think it
was
I think
17.
2017, two young girls, Abby and Libby, I'm drawing a blank here, sorry about that, were murdered. They were off school and they were walking on a trail and taking some pictures for Instagram. They were 8th graders. They had been dropped off and they were going to be picked up later on that day. And they were both found murdered off of the trail. And it was in a small town in Indiana, Delphi, Indiana. And it took over the whole town because that's just not something that happens there.
And for 7 years.
Yeah.
I can't believe that's a 7-year case.
Yeah. And I think the trial has been 2 years of it.
Yeah.
If I'm right on that.
at least.
Where it just kept getting dragged out or, which is a long time for a trial.
Yeah,
2
because they
years.
switched locations.
Yeah.
Was it in Fort
Wayne. They went to
Wayne.
Allen County, but
Allen
then did it
County.
come back? Because it was
I
in
don't
Carroll
claim to
County
know.
where the actual...
Yeah, I
It
don't
was
know
in
if
the
they
county where
picked
Delphi
I
is.
think they picked the jurors out of Allen County and then came back to Carroll County to have the hearing.
Okay.
One thing I was surprised about we were talking about, it's since 2017, so long, and then trying to even get it to trial, there were so many wranglings and changings. I was shocked how quickly they found jurors. I thought that process would take us to the summer. I really did. Because who hadn't heard about this case? It had been 7 years. Who hadn't heard about this case?
Well, and I don't think anymore in today's day and age, I don't think they can only choose people who haven't heard. I think they have to say, will you be impartial? Are you capable of being impartial?
Yeah, that'd be very hard.
Yeah.
To
So I was
not be
prepared.
biased,
I
you
was
know.
prepared for them to drag the family through this even longer. And I was so shocked that they're like, they found jurors within a week and a half.
Yeah.
And they started the trial and ended the trial within a month.
Yeah.
Which I thought that too would be a circus and everything would be
Yeah.
drawn out. So
Well, Lord knows they've had plenty of time to prepare. Gosh, yeah.
too much time. Okay, go
Too
ahead,
much
Tracy.
time.
Okay, so Richard Allen was found guilty, convicted on 4 counts, 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of felony murder. I meant to look up the difference and I didn't, so sorry. I don't know the difference, but he was found guilty of all 4 charges, which could hold up to 130 years sentence. He is scheduled to be sentenced on December 20th So just a few weeks from now.
I have a question. Do you
What?
know why wouldn't that be up for the death penalty? Do you know?
I think that's a decision made with the prosecutor.
So
and,
you
like,
agree
the
to that
family
before the trial starts? Like, is that
it
on the
up for death
table?
penalty?
I don't think so.
I don't think so because I didn't hear any talk about that at all.
No, I don't either.
I don't know if it had to do maybe with his mental awareness. If that
Well, and if
played
they're
a
saying
part
up to
into it.
130 years, they didn't
he's-
say death.
it-
Obviously, he's not going to live
yeah.
Right, but I thought, boy,
know
if that
what
doesn't
makes-
qualify for...
whatever capital murder is, but I
Yeah.
don't know.
I do know as many shows that I've watched, and I mean, I can't say this for certain, but I think the prosecutors work with the family and they try to figure out what the best fair. I don't know.
Yeah, they look a lot of times, and it's for the fastest way.
Yeah.
And it might have
with
been...
the less
Yes.
damage to the family.
Yes.
And that might have been the fastest way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. I'll say, sorry.
So that's okay. And another thing that when they were walking out the back of it, after the case was over and people were leaving, his wife was saying, "This isn't over. This isn't over." Now, what does she know? I don't think anything. Otherwise, it would have been already time to say it.
Did she end up getting on the stand?
No. But she was one of the 60 confessions
Yes.
that he made
That's
while
what I was
in
just going to
prison.
say.
They have him on record over, I don't mean to laugh, but that's a ridiculous number of times to confess to people. He confessed to his wife, his mother, the psychologist, the warden. There were employees, there were fellow inmates. I don't even understand how you talk that much. Like, I don't understand. You know that along the way I have thought that he didn't act alone. Mm-hmm. And I'm not completely cured of that. Do I think he's guilty? Yes.
Yes.
Do I think he did it by himself? I have thoughts.
I know, but don't you? And I think that too. But then I think, why wouldn't he have said that?
What if he had been threatened prior to ever being arrested? If you say anything, we will kill your wife, your mother,
He has a daughter, too, doesn't he?
whoever. Yeah, I don't
He has
know.
a kid.
So, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
But then I think they said that he was having mental breaks in prison where he was like beating his head against the wall and eating his own feces
Yeah.
and doing really outlandish things. And I believe that people go crazy. He was in solitaire for
Yeah.
a long time.
You could just tell by the way he looked.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. So I go back and forth a lot on
yeah.
my theories on that, which no one asked for other than you guys.
I find it very interesting, and you would love to get into her mind, his wife's mind. Does she think that he's just mentally ill and he's one of those confessors that just wants the notoriety and isn't in his right mind? Like, what is the basis for her to believe that he shouldn't have been convicted?
Okay, so since you brought that up, I was going to say he may have gotten away with it had he moved away after it happened, or after they released the picture of the bridge guy. The next day, he went to the police and said, "I was on the bridge and I do look like it, and I was wearing similar clothing, but it wasn't me."
Why would he do that? Unless he was for sure somebody saw
It is
him.
interesting, the psychology of that, because a lot of murderers insert themselves into
True.
the investigation.
Right.
They show up at vigils. They show up at the police and say,
They
"I want to
look
help
for them.
I
Yes.
want to," or "I didn't have anything to do with." Yeah. I mean, that's very
and I was
interesting.
seeing an article today. I was looking at an article that said he was in a section of files that was marked like cleared or they had moved past, and there was a. I want to get her name, so hold on, let me find it on this piece of paper. Kathy Shank was a volunteer, and she was an older lady, and she was going through the files that had already been pushed aside and trying to get everything organized and categorized, and there was something in his file that made her think that it didn't match whatever. There were two things that didn't match up to her, and she took it to the police and said, "I think you need to
She
give
had
this
to do
another
it?
look."
Yeah, it's always another set of eyes that can see something that they probably are you just are overwhelmed with so much. So what were you going to say, like with his wife? Like, what do you think I mean, if you had to
I don't know, but why would you even say anything? Like, if your husband just got convicted, shut your mouth and walk out.
Exactly.
But
Out
to
of
be
respect to
saying,
those
like,
families.
this isn't over. You
She
know,
must
I
just
have
be
a
as crazy
theory
as him.
that there are other people involved, and it's a whole network of people.
Yeah.
I'm not the only one to have that theory. I
No,
didn't,
absolutely not.
But she'd be a fool to run her mouth if it's true, because he's going away, and if she doesn't,
And if she knew that and didn't testify and try to help him, like at least put some doubt into somebody's mind,
Yeah.
then she has no business walking out after he's convicted saying this isn't over. Well, it kind of is.
That was such an odd comment.
Yeah.
I mean, it just made
What's
me feel
left?
sick.
Yeah. So the case and the guilty verdict was based on a unspent bullet at the scene that matched a pistol at his house years later.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
I don't understand how an unspent bullet gets on the ground. It was between the two bodies,
I think he placed it there.
but why?
Did he want to get caught?
Didn't he also, like position their bodies a certain way?
Their bodies were positioned. That's something else I'm going to come up
I
on
think
in
he
a
might
second.
have laid it there to confuse the situation. I don't know. I just think, how does that happen?
I struggle with how he was physically able to kill two 13-year-old, 14-year-old girls. He slashed their throats. If he had shot them both, you can do that pretty quickly. You can shoot two people lickety-split. It doesn't take that long to do.
Right.
But to cut two people's throats
And wait for them to die.
would take I don't know. I mean, maybe
This is
that's quick
daylight,
too. Maybe that's quick too.
It's
I don't know.
daylight too, as far as not being seen.
Right.
Well, okay. Here's my question.
All right.
Because I had to Google. I'm like, what physical evidence did the jury have in order to make their decision? And it was the unspent bullet and his confession. And I thought, first of all, what's an unspent bullet doing there if they weren't shot? Couldn't anyone put an unspent bullet that could fit that size gun there?
Yeah.
And my other thing was the whole thing you were talking about with how the girls were found. Having one girl nude, the other girl clothed, but not in her clothes, in the other girl's clothes. So the naked girl's clothes were in the river, and the girl was wearing her friend's clothes. And I thought, how long was he there? Because I'm like,
How
if
does
he was-
one person do all that?
if you're dealing with someone that's dead or dying, they're not helping you. Do you know how hard it is to rip clothes off people and redress somebody? That would take me so long.
I know.
And the man whose property they were on, he couldn't really account for his time that day. And there were some inconsistencies, but they said he was cleared.
Yeah, I remember they looked at him for a while. The bullet, it's just, I don't know enough about it. And I'm sure they talked about this. Did he try to shoot the gun and it dislodged somehow and fell and thought, I'm not going to shoot him. Now I'm going to have to find another way. Like, did they ever, do you know of anything with I don't know enough about.
I don't. I think they just said they found it and they found a gun in his
tied
house.
back
It
to
And it
almost
was
have
the
to be
same.
like out of his pocket, I think.
Yes.
I mean, I don't think it could come out of a gun without being fired.
Yeah.
Unless
But
he was trying to load it on site, but doesn't
Right.
make sense because
and
you
if
would have
they
pockets in your
found
pocket.
that, how did they not find any other DNA? How?
Not any other DNA. No DNA. They found no DNA of his on either body.
It's impossible.
And-
if he redressed them,
No DNA of theirs at his home.
It makes
So where is this transfer of DNA? Like, it is 2024 now, even 2017. Like,
what? That's what would put doubt in a juror's mind. Like, do they have I'm not saying they don't have the right guy. I truly believe they have the right guy, but I can understand where there might be some doubt. I mean, to prove that it was really, truly him.
definitely.
I had the most random thought the other day. I was at Goodwill, and I'm going to make this make sense. I was at Goodwill looking through some clothes, and I was like, you know how you look through like pants and you
Sure.
touch one pair, slide
you're-
it to the
you're-
next,
you're
slide
putting
it to the
DNA on
next.
it, yeah.
And I was like, what if the next person buys these and commits a crime and my hair from my jacket gets on there or my DNA. And then all of a sudden I'm wrapped up in a murder trial because I looked at some used clothing at Goodwill. Like, is that not possible?
I don't know.
It could
So
be.
then I'm thinking about this. You know, I don't know. I don't claim to be a DNA
I know,
expert.
but I've watched enough crime shows where they do, you know,
Yes.
like go in a house that somebody was murdered, and you know, there's a lot of DNA from
Well,
just
if you're
anything. From, I mean, to have no DNA.
All right, what, Rach?
My real other question is, so no other DNA.
Right.
Makes no sense, especially if you're slitting someone's throat. I've never done that before, but I can imagine there's a bit of splattering. I can imagine it's a messy affair. But anyway, so none of the blood ever found anywhere. But also the thing that really doesn't make any sense to me is if he was so meticulous about cleaning up his DNA, how did he miss her phone that had a freaking recording on it?
Yeah.
Her
now,
phone.
it was under the other girl's body, but he put them there.
Right.
So under the body, under a shoe, which doesn't really make sense on the
I
positioning.
know, and maybe
either.
just the hurriedness of what he was doing.
But he was so good at cleaning
I
up everything
know.
else, and he
I
didn't
know.
notice the girl's phone sitting there. That makes zero sense. Like either he's a mastermind or he's an idiot. Pick one, because
Yeah.
I don't get how he's both.
And we mentioned earlier the theory of other people being involved, and I didn't know the term, which good. I'm glad I don't know what it is. Odinism.
Is
That's
that
they
kind
call
of
it
a
the
witch?
Odinism theory, and it is a pagan,
Yeah.
ritualistic, Norse pagan ritualistic group that is supposedly adopted by white supremacists.
And they wouldn't let that even in. They didn't let the defense
No.
even talk about that, correct?
Nope.
Okay.
That was not discussed at all. Now, would it be logical that there were some white supremacists in that area? I think it's
Yes.
possible.
I think, yeah, I do too.
Now, that is not to say that any of them are involved in any pagan rituals or anything like that, but I can see where the direction went with that.
And it is perhaps and is far-fetched with no other, other than it being a thing.
Yes.
There's no ties to it, to the case, but it does provide some sort of motive, because I don't see his motive unless he's
I don't
just deranged. And then I'm like, you don't just become a 40-some-year-old man deranged just like that. So there has to be some other times that he's attempted at least
I know.
to lure a kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you just don't wake up and say, today I'm going to sexually assault two girls that I don't know for no real reason other than the fact that I want to.
Yeah. And a theory that I thought wasn't totally crazy that other people have said was that it was done in the ritualistic manner that it was in order to film it and sell on the internet.
And we had talked like that from the very beginning.
Yes, we did.
That there was some type of ring, like some type of sex ring.
Yeah.
Well, couldn't they find it if it's on the dark web or
Well,
wherever
I
it would
will
be?
tell you that one of the girls' families, I don't know if it's both, but at least one of the families, their mission now that this trial is over is to get a law passed or something to do with the law, which I'm pretty sure law for it already exists, but I don't know how it doesn't if not, to do with the selling of the images for profit on the internet. Because apparently behind a paywall, you can see images from the crime scene.
Well, somebody from
Somebody is making money
Yeah.
off of these images.
the police department,
Oh,
right? Aren't they-
definitely somebody involved in the
assume so.
investigation.
Unless someone took photos before they were ever found. That also is an option. But these girls were not clothed when they were found. So these are
I thought one of them was.
or one of them was.
One of
Yeah,
them was.
Yeah, one of them was. I'm sorry.
Ew.
Like it doesn't make a lot of sense. And whatever it is isn't good. Whatever sense it is isn't good.
Well, I wanted to ask if you heard about another girl that had been discovered. She had been missing in 2006. Did you see about this? There's a girl named Jordan Sofer, and she was a 16 or 17-year-old girl that lived in Peru, Indiana. In 2006, she went missing. Like she walked away from a house that I think it was her adoptive parents' house, and they thought she went to work, and she never showed up to work, and they never found her. And 3 years later, they found her remains down by a creek near Peru. And at that time, in 2006, Richard Allen and his wife lived in Peru.
Yep.
And they decided to move to Delphi shortly thereafter.
Wow, that's a
And there was
that's a
another
weird
there was another
coincidence.
case where in a small town I think called Mexico, Indiana.
that's where he's from.
Or that he's from.
Yeah.
That's what it is. He's from Mexico, which like does a little triangle with Peru
Yep.
and Delphi.
Yeah.
So they're all very close. And that's what it was.
Yeah,
I knew that there was
so-
a connection.
And I don't know if, it obviously, for 3 years, when they found her body, obviously it was decomposed and there was really nothing
Right, that they
to
could
check for. But how weird that he would be there and then move. And how weird that it was a similar covered in stick,
Yeah.
loosely covered in sticks sort of. And then I thought it kind of made sense to me only because, like I said, I just don't think anyone wakes up and suddenly
that
becomes
was
that
not,
way.
I do not believe that was his first time assaulting or killing someone.
Pretty good at it if it's his first time. He did a good job because he didn't leave anything behind.
I just don't think that
it doesn't make sense.
I don't think that's.
But then I think, there were only 10 people out on the trail that day.
And it was February. It was a mild February
and 3
day.
of them were those 3.
Yeah.
So then you've got, so then 7 other people,
And I think they all testified, didn't they?
probably.
I think that's what they said. And they all saw him. Everyone was, I don't know if they all saw him, but a good portion of the people that
Yeah.
were there, like, oh yeah, I remember seeing that guy because it was 70 degrees out and he was
Yeah.
dressed for the middle of winter. Like he kind of stood out like a sore
Yeah.
thumb. Like the whole point was it
Yeah.
was February and they were rejoicing that it was so warm that they were going to walk around on the trails. And this man was seen by several
by himself.
people.
Yeah, that's just.
Yeah. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But then, so, I'm going back and forth on because this is how I have followed the case where I'm like, oh no, he did it. And I do believe he did it. Even if I think other people were involved, that does not take away the fact that I think a guilty man was convicted.
Yeah.
But then I was reading about the Anthony Schatz persona of that person, Keegan Klein, that she was messaging with. One of the girls, I think it was Liberty.
Oh, I don't know about this.
Liberty was messaging with this boy
early
on social media who was, he was not Anthony Schatz. That was some like Instagram model or something.
Right.
And they found this guy named Keegan Klein who was pretending to be this guy to talk to her. But I think it was
Just a couple days before they were killed.
within days of her being killed. So then I'm like, okay, is that, normal? What's the connection? I don't know.
Did they share where they were going to go on their day off of school?
Yeah, I know that they questioned him and cleared him.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, it just makes you
But
wonder
there's
that
just more
dark
pieces
underworld
to it that make you think that maybe it was more
Well,
to
that's
it.
exactly, I echo what you said. In my gut, I know he did something. But if I was on a jury and I swore to just listen to the evidence, they didn't give me a lot of physical, concrete.
Not physical, definitely.
You just kind of had to go with your gut. And that's why I was kind of surprised. I wasn't surprised that they found him guilty because I do think he's guilty, but it happened pretty fast. I think if I was on the jury and I thought, yeah, I kind of think this guy did it, they didn't do a very good job of making me positive that he did it. And when you say doubt and then you're like, well, what's reasonable? I don't know. I'm not saying I would have not seen it, but I can see how some people.
And maybe it is reasonable to think he
the
confessed 60
confessions alone.
times and we found a gun that has a bullet that was found at the scene. And
I'm guessing that
there's a video that he said is him.
But then
did he detail too? Did he? I mean, he
supposedly during some of the
he
confessions, he
detailed
gave details
that only he would know.
that only the killer would know.
About the white van.
Yeah.
Yeah. They
Yeah.
had never told him about the white
But
van.
I understand what you're saying. As
But
far
doesn't every
as,
killer have a white van?
God, yes.
sorry, yes.
Ban the white van. That's yeah.
I don't know.
But I
There's-
understand what you're saying because I think so much of something to be convincing, DNA needs to speak, and when you're just going by, is he just crazy? Did he just know things about the case? There's a lot of people that confess falsely.
And I guess
attention.
As a like if I were one of their family members, yes, I would be happy that he was convicted, but there would have to be a part of me that thought, by this being, does this mean the case is wrapped up? Are you really not going to still maybe look into anything? Because I would think, as a family member,
how did you do this alone?
I would want to know that someone was still kind of looking out to see if there's something bigger.
Yeah.
Because it could happen to somebody else. Just because he's gone doesn't mean that this couldn't happen again.
I agree.
Okay, Tracy.
That's about all I got on this one. I got a couple other little tidbits for other cases. So if you guys have more on this one, you can.
I think that.
Yeah.
So
I think we hit all the good highlights.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hope everyone finds some peace. That's what I got on that one. Okay. Moving on. Another case today there was a verdict, a guilty verdict. I have not really followed it, but it was a case of a girl named Laken Riley in Georgia. She was a student, 22-year-old, jogging, and was found a couple days later. And Jose Ibarra, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, Jose Ibarra was convicted of several counts.
That was a while ago too, wasn't it?
No.
I think there's just one that they all kind of blend together.
I think this one was just several months ago.
Okay.
Like I was like, wait, does that say that happened in 2024?
Yeah, because I feel like that's such a familiar story.
Yeah.
Somebody goes jogging and
Yeah, that's why I don't jog.
Oh my God.
Okay. Sorry. That was like an old Shecky Green joke. Okay. The next one is Susan Smith.
I saw that today.
What'd she do?
Craig Melvin had interviewed her ex-husband from the Today Show.
Okay. I did not see that.
I saw clips online.
You don't remember the name Susan Smith?
I remember. I don't remember what she did.
1994.
Okay. A lot has happened since 1994.
I remember. If you said Susan Smith, I would know exactly who it was.
One of the first big cases that was out, like...
Well, what'd she do?
She killed her kids.
She drowned her two children. I think they were like 1 and 3-ish, give or take. And
in the bathtub?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Was it a bathtub? I can't remember.
Or was it that she in the river?
I can't remember that.
There's a couple different. She killed her boys, and I mean, did she claim postpartum, like with psychosis? I don't know.
Did she get away with it?
No. She's in prison.
Okay.
But today, it was 30 years later, unanimously denied parole today.
Okay.
So
her husband was interviewed, ex-husband, I should say, was interviewed by Craig Melvin, and he testified strongly that she not be released, that she is not remorseful for what she did, that she knew what she was doing. And some cases, because this sadly isn't, there are plenty of cases that speak to this. Some will say postpartum psychosis. This wasn't who my wife was,
Right.
There's more to it. There's another one that's like in a mental institution, another mom that did the same thing. And I can't think of what her name is.
I don't know.
But he was very, very much against her even seeing the light of day, which I 100% agree with.
Well, me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
And lastly, it kind of involves one of our competitor podcasts.
Oh my
God. Not sure if they know that
really?
or not.
Crime Junkies. Sorry, I had to say that.
Well, they're local here. They're in Indianapolis as well.
Our competitor.
Our competitors.
If Ashley Flowers hears this, she's going to pee her pants laughing.
Okay, Crime Junkies announced that they have done an episode on JonBenet Ramsey. It said it was coming out on Monday, November 25th, but then it said be looking on Friday, November 22nd for the Junkies. So I'm not sure.
Maybe the fan club will get a little sneak peek. I did see, she posted a picture, I think last week. She's interviewing the dad. And that's huge. First of all, to know Crime Junkies is that's their most requested case for them to do a podcast on. And they have stood firm that they will never, for whatever reason, they were not covering it. It's overcovered.
That's what I was going to say, overcovered.
Overcovered, and that they were not going to do it.
Why would John Ramsey agree to talk to her?
I'm telling you, she is it in the podcasting world.
Probably money.
And
I don't mean that meanly. I mean,
and I think...
Doesn't he have money?
I mean, I mean, I don't know. Maybe he trusts her and feels that, I don't know. I don't get it. You would think you would be done speaking about it, but it's still a mystery of what happened to her. So maybe he feels like she's a good outlet
to say that we still don't know what happened.
I don't know.
I think it's a
So
ratings
she's been
grab.
teasing.
We would never stoop to something so low.
John Ramsey, if you're listening.
Sorry. So I think that'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think I don't know how interesting, other than the fact that he agreed to do it. He's not going to say anything.
I know, but it's just good publicity for not only
I
crime
will
junkies,
listen.
but I'll listen. I'll definitely listen.
What if there's one little nugget of something
She's
that I
good at-
haven't
I mean,
heard or seen?
What if Tracy cracks the case just by he slips
you.
up? What if he slips up?
that case again?
Boy, you could go down a rabbit hole on
yeah,
that case.
I can't. Yeah.
It's craziness.
Well, I'm pretty sure that we are destined to crack some sort of national case. I feel that.
You do?
I mean, it's probably not this one. But I'm going
What
to
if
say
it
there's
is?
going to be a crime that's going to be committed that somehow the three of us are going to figure out. And then they're going to make a made-for-TV movie. And I want Valerie Bertinelli to play me. Who's going to play you?
Meredith Baxter Burney.
Excellent, Kim.
I have
She was in every Lifetime show back in the day.
no idea.
Monday night.
You said Lifetime. This has nothing. Okay. Thank you for listening about crime. I just have to make one quick question or announcement. We might have to do a whole show about it. Did you see the new Netflix show that was coming out that's kind of like a Hallmark movie called Hot Frosty with Lacey Chabert or whatever, the girl from all the other.
You're talking about.
You don't know what I'm talking about?
I do.
Oh, you do.
I'm embarrassed to know too, but
Because whenever you turn on Netflix, it's like right in front of your face. It's like they're advertising it.
It's the guy from Schitt's Creek, the veterinarian.
Yes.
What's his name?
He is cute.
Well, he was cute.
His name's Ted.
Ted.
And he looks like, just a little side thing, I think that
I thought you meant he looked like a little side thing.
I'm like,
No,
what does that
was
look
that
like?
calling people?
my favorite pacer, TJ
Yeah.
McConnell. I think TJ. I've always said that he looks like Ted from Schitt's Creek.
He looks a little bit, so he's kind of like Hot Frosty.
I mean, well, yeah, that just gives me the ick.
No.
Don't say Frosty's gross.
You guys look it up on TikTok. They have so many videos of people watching it that, like, one girl was filming her boyfriend watching it, and he was like, "Oh my God, ew." Is this a horror Is this a horror movie? And like was just freaky because it's so weird. He's like, that's weird, right? She's weird.
Yes.
Yeah,
It is.
Well, I'm getting confused in the other advertisement end of it. And is this the Hallmark with that Chad Michael Murphy?
Murray?
Is it Murray? Chad Michael Murphy. What-
Yeah.
Am I thinking of Wildfire? That guy that sings.
Oh
that's
my
that's
God.
Michael
That's
Martin.
Michael Martin Murphy.
Oh my
Sorry.
God.
And my brother is Martin Anthony Murphy. Okay, I'm sorry.
Wow. But anyways, I keep seeing things on Instagram of him being shirtless and like it's some kind of Christmas show where he's like
I've seen
sexy,
a calendar of him.
where he's a sexy Santa. I think it's a Hallmark.
Is it
Yeah.
called Sexy Santa?
I don't know. I
Hot
don't
Frosty,
know.
Sexy
I think
Santa.
Hallmark probably has 6 sexy Santa shows.
It's gross. I just wanted to alert everyone that that's on Netflix, and for some reason, I think I might end up watching it with Lillian and my
Why?
mom and my sister, and I'll let you.
I know everybody's
what
going
you
to
think.
watch it
for
just
some
because
reason
of the
they planned on it.
For some reason.
They've already got their snacks planned.
Yeah, we have our snacks planned, and it's going to be hilarious. So yes, just something for you to watch with the family. Thank you so much for joining us today on Up for Grabs. I hope that you will join us next time. Thanks.